Okay, so you're here with us on the deep dive because I'm guessing you want to get right to the good stuff when it comes to health and well-being, right? Cut through all the noise and really figure out what works.
Exactly. And, especially if you're someone who's guiding others, whether it's a life coach or a trainer, or you're in the healing professions, or maybe you're just super into your own fitness journey, you're busy.
Yeah.
You need actionable information without getting bogged down.
Right. You don't have time for all that fluff. So that's what we're all about here. Today we're diving deep, no pun intended, into the 7 Pillars of Health. This is a book by Don Colbert, and it's really a fantastic guide to like the bedrock principles of better health.
It is. And, it's written in such a way that you can actually apply what you learn.
Mm.
You know, more energy, better defenses against getting sick, but not in a restrictive way.
I like that. It's all about positive change, right? Not about deprivation. And where we figured we'd start is with two absolute essentials, the first 2 pillars in the book: water and sleep.
Yeah. And those are the foundations. I mean, it can't really build anything without them.
Okay, so let's jump right in.
So pillar number one is water. And this might seem basic, but it's amazing how much we take it for granted. We hear that our bodies are mostly water, like around 70%.
Right, right.
But think about this. The percentage is even higher in like super important areas, like our muscles and our brain cells and our blood.
Mm.
And even our bones, which you think of as being solid, are actually about 25% water.
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot more than I would have thought.
Right. And the book really drives this point home. It says we can survive for weeks without food, but only a few days without water.
Okay, that really puts it into perspective.
It does. And it's easy to forget that we're losing water constantly throughout the day.
Yeah.
Through sweating, peeing, even just breathing. We lose about 2 quarts a day.
So that means we need to be replenishing it constantly, right?
Absolutely. And a lot of people wait till they're thirsty to drink. But by then, you're probably already on your way to being dehydrated.
Oh, so that thirst mechanism isn't really like a foolproof early warning system.
Not really. The book actually connects a lot of common problems like headaches, back pain, even arthritis and skin and digestion issues to being dehydrated.
Oh, wow. I mean, I knew dehydration was bad, but I didn't realize it could be linked to all that.
Yeah, it's like those warning lights on your car dashboard.
Yeah.
If a light comes on, you wouldn't just ignore it or take the bulb out, would you?
No, of course not. I'd figure out what's wrong and fix it.
Exactly. Well, it's the same with these symptoms. The book argues that masking them with meds without fixing the dehydration is like ignoring that warning light. It might give you temporary relief, but it's not a long-term solution.
That makes a lot of sense. So we need to address that root cause, which is often dehydration.
Right. And there are so many benefits to being properly hydrated. The book brings in the work of Dr. F. Batmangaj, who talks about how water lubricates our joints, which can help prevent things like arthritis and back pain. It boosts our immune system, and it even helps prevent clogged arteries, which could reduce the risk of heart attacks and strokes.
Wow, those are some serious benefits from just drinking enough water.
I know, right? It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And when we don't get enough water, our body goes into this sort of rationing mode.
Rationing mode? What's that?
Well, the book describes it as the body prioritizing the vital organs like the brain, heart, lungs, liver, and kidneys. It calls them the starting 5. They get first dibs on whatever water is available.
Okay, that makes sense. I guess in survival mode, those are the ones you need to keep functioning above all else.
Exactly. So less essential areas like our skin, our digestive system, and our joints, those are often the first to show signs of dehydration.
So those kind of like nagging little things that we might not even think twice about could actually be our bodies trying to tell us something important.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And there's another connection that's super interesting. The book talks about how dehydration might be linked to things like asthma and allergies.
Really? I've never heard that before.
Well, it mentions sodium as a natural mucus breaker. And it suggests that drinking enough water could help thin out that mucus and potentially ease symptoms for people with asthma and allergies.
So it's kind of like a natural expectorant in a way.
Right. And, sometimes the simplest solutions are the most effective.
Definitely. And a lot cheaper than relying on medications all the time.
That's what the book says, too. Health is cheap. Disease is expensive.
Okay, so we've established that water is like super important. We need to drink enough of it. But the book also goes into some pretty unsettling territory when it comes to our water sources. All the potential contamination.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's a big issue these days. It starts with what they call agri-pollution. All the pesticides, herbicides, and fertilizers that are used in farming. The book mentions that over 2 billion pounds of pesticides are used annually in the U.S. alone.
2 billion pounds. That's a crazy amount.
It is. And those chemicals run off from the farms and they can seep into the groundwater, which a lot of us rely on for drinking water. The Environmental Working Group actually found multiple pesticides in just one glass of Midwestern tap water.
Yikes. Are they talking about specific chemicals that they found?
Yeah, they specifically mention atrazine, which is used a lot in the Corn Belt, and that's a known carcinogen. And get this, standard water treatment often doesn't even remove it completely.
That's really scary, especially when you think about kids drinking that water.
Right. It's definitely concerning.
Right.
And it's not just agricultural chemicals we have to worry about either. There's also all the pharmaceuticals and personal care products that end up in our water.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about that. What kind of stuff are we talking about?
Think about medications that aren't fully metabolized by the body and end up being flushed down the toilet. Or residues from things like soaps, shampoos, lotions, cosmetics. All of that can end up in our water systems.
It's kind of gross when you think about it.
It is. And the amount of this stuff entering the environment is apparently comparable to the amount of pesticides.
Wow, okay. And then on top of all that, there are microorganisms to worry about too.
That's right. Municipal water treatment does try to kill off most of the bacteria, but they can't always get rid of all the viruses and parasites like Giardia and Cryptosporidium.
Oh, right. Those can cause some nasty stomach problems.
Yeah, the book actually mentions a major outbreak in Milwaukee where Cryptosporidium in the water supply made tons of people sick and some even died.
Okay, now I'm really starting to second guess my tap water. So what about bottled water? Isn't that supposed to be pure?
Well, you'd think so, right? But it's not always a guarantee. A study back in 1999 found that a good chunk of popular bottled water brands actually contain contaminants like arsenic trihalomethanes, even bacteria. Some even had man-made chemicals and high levels of fluoride.
So bottled water isn't necessarily the answer either, huh?
And the FDA actually allows a certain amount of lead in bottled water.
What? Lead in bottled water? That's crazy.
I know, right? So it's like, what are we supposed to drink?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. So what does the book recommend? What are some better options?
Well, if you do choose to go the bottled water route, they say to look for membership in the International Bottled Water Association, or IBWA, because those members have to meet FDA standards.
Okay, so that's at least a starting point. But there's got to be more to it than that, right?
There is. The book really stresses the importance of checking the mineral content of your water. Specifically look for water that's high in magnesium, ideally over 90 milligrams per liter, and low in sodium, less than 10 milligrams per liter.
Okay, so magnesium, good sodium, not so much.
Exactly.
Oh.
And there are some brands that tend to meet those criteria, like Noah's Adobe Springs, Blue Star Springs Water. The book even gives us some websites to check out for more info, mgwater.com and tldp.com.
Perfect. We'll put those in the show notes too, so anyone who wants to dig a little deeper can do that easily.
Awesome. And then, of course, there's the option of filtering your water at home.
Right. That seems like a good idea, especially after learning about all this contamination.
The book mentions basic carbon filters as a good starting point. And if you want the purest water possible, there's distilled water and reverse osmosis filters.
So those would remove pretty much everything.
Pretty much. But there's a catch.
Yep.
They can make the water slightly acidic, which might not be the best for everyone in the long run.
Okay, so what should people do if they want to go that route?
The book suggests adding mineral supplements or alkaline boosters. Or you could just go for an alkaline water filter from the start. That seems like the best option if you want to keep your body in a more alkaline state.
All right, that makes sense. So we've talked about the different types of water. Now, how much should we actually be aiming to drink each day?
The book gives a good guideline of 8 to 16-ounce glasses a day spread out throughout the day.
Okay, so not just chugging it all at once.
Right. And it's especially good to drink water before meals. It can actually help with weight management because it makes you feel fuller.
Oh, I like that little bonus tip.
And there's a good rhythm they suggest. You know, drink a couple hours after breakfast and lunch, and then again about 30 minutes before dinner.
That sounds easy enough to remember.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've covered water pretty thoroughly. Now let's move on to the second pillar, sleep.
Ah, yes. Sleep. The great restorer, as the book calls it. It's so essential, but so often neglected in our busy modern lives.
It's true. We wear our lack of sleep like a badge of honor sometimes.
Right. Like it means we're super productive and important. But the truth is we're doing ourselves a huge disservice when we don't get enough sleep. The book says 1 in 6 Americans reports insomnia as a major problem.
Wow, 1 in 6? That's a lot of people struggling with sleep.
And that's just the people who are reporting it. This is probably even more widespread than that.
Yeah, I bet. So what exactly are we missing out on when we don't get enough sleep? Besides feeling tired all the time.
Well, for starters, sleep is when our bodies and minds really get a chance to recharge and repair themselves.
Okay, that makes sense.
The book even says that enough sleep can help slow down the aging process. That whole beauty sleep idea. Turns out there's actually some truth to it.
Oh, that's good to know.
And maybe most importantly, sleep is super crucial for a strong immune system. There's research showing that people who get 9 hours of sleep have way more natural killer cell activity than those who only get 7.
Natural killer cells, those sound pretty badass. What do they do?
They're basically our body's defense force. They go around finding and eliminating threats like viruses, bacteria, even cancerous cells.
So more sleep equals a stronger immune system. I'm sold.
Right. And then on the flip side, when we don't get enough sleep, all sorts of bad things can happen.
Like what?
Well, the book specifically mentions an increased risk of developing type 2 diabetes. There was a study in The Lancet that showed even young, healthy people had impaired carbohydrate processing after just 1 week of not getting enough sleep.
Oh, wow. So it's not just a problem for people who are already at risk.
Nope, it can affect anyone. And beyond that, the book just makes a general statement that lack of sleep contributes to all sorts of other health problems. It really is a foundational pillar.
So what are some of the reasons why people have trouble sleeping? I mean, besides just being busy and staying up late.
The book mentions a whole range of things, from physical pain to stressful life situations to existing health problems. Even our eating habits can play a role.
So it can be pretty complex.
It can. Yeah. And then there are some things we do that interfere with sleep without even realizing it, like caffeine, nicotine, and alcohol.
Oh, yeah. Those are obvious culprits. But what about things like exercise? Isn't exercise supposed to be good for sleep?
It is in the long run. But the book says that exercising too close to bedtime can actually make it harder to fall asleep.
Really? Why is that?
Because it raises your stress hormone levels.
Yeah.
And your body needs time to wind down after a workout.
Okay, that makes sense. So timing is important.
And your sleep environment matters too.
Mm-hmm.
Having a comfortable mattress and pillow and not having a partner who snores like a freight train.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about it. So what are some things we can do to create a better sleep environment for ourselves?
Well, the book recommends getting some aerobic exercise in the afternoon or early evening. That can help you sleep better later on.
Okay, so get that workout in, but not too close to bedtime.
Right. And then establish a consistent bedtime routine. Go to bed and wake up around the same time every day, even on weekends.
That's good advice. But it's so hard to stick to sometimes.
I know, but it's worth it. And the book even suggests trying to be in bed by 10 p.m. or even 9 p.m. if you have chronic health issues.
Wow, that seems early. But I guess it makes sense if you want to align with those natural light cycles.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
And it gives your body more time to do all that cellular regeneration that happens during sleep.
Okay, so early to bed, early to rise.
Exactly. And if you have back pain, the book recommends trying a memory foam mattress. They're supposed to be really good at relieving pressure.
Oh, good to know. And what about snoring? Does the book offer any solutions for that?
It briefly mentions some of the common causes like anatomical differences, excess weight, and weak muscle tone in the tongue and throat. But it doesn't really delve into specific solutions in this section.
Well, at least it acknowledges that snoring can be a major sleep disruptor, both for the snorer and their partner.
Definitely. Now, if you have trouble sleeping, the book also talks about some natural sleep aids.
Oh, that's interesting. I'm always a little wary of sleep medications, so natural alternatives sound good.
Yeah, they can be a good option. The book mentions valerian, which is an herb that's been used for centuries to help people sleep. Studies show that it can be as effective as some mild sleep meds, but without making you drowsy the next day.
Oh, that's a definite plus.
And there's 5-HTP, which is involved in the production of serotonin. That's the neurotransmitter that affects mood and sleep. So it might help with sleep by reducing stress, anxiety, and depression.
Interesting. So it's kind of like attacking the sleep problem from multiple angles.
Right. And the book gives a typical dosage, but it also cautions against using it with antidepressants without talking to your doctor first.
Okay, that's important to remember.
Definitely. Always check with your doctor before starting any new supplements.
So what other natural sleep aids does the book mention?
It talks about L-theanine, which is interesting because it can cross the blood-brain barrier and promote relaxation, but it doesn't make you sleepy.
So it's kind of like a chill pill without the actual pill.
Yeah, something like that. It can also be helpful for ADHD and stress. And then there's melatonin, which you've probably heard of. It's the hormone that regulates our sleep-wake cycle.
Right, so it helps us get into that sleepy mode.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got water and sleep covered. And the book connects this whole idea of sleep to a bigger concept of rest.
Yes, it does.
Mm-hmm.
It even talks about the Sabbath, which is a day of rest in many religious traditions. as a sort of divine rule for physical and mental rejuvenation.
Oh, wow. So it's like a built-in system for rest and recovery.
Right. And the book points out that when we're constantly pushing ourselves without taking breaks, our health and our relationships suffer.
So it's not just about laziness, it's about taking care of ourselves.
Exactly. Now, thinking about all of you listening, whether you're a life coach, a trainer, a healer, or someone who's just really committed to their own well-being and fitness, out of these ideas of hydration and rest fit into a holistic approach to health.
Yeah, because they are kind of the foundation, aren't they?
They really are. And for those of you working with others, it's important to remember that you can't really help someone reach their goals if their basic needs for water and sleep aren't being met.
Right. It's like trying to build a house on a shaky foundation.
Exactly. And to bring this to life, let's talk about Coach Rahul Garg. He's a holistic life coach based in India, and his coaching, both individual and group, is really known for focusing on this whole picture of health.
Okay, so Rahul really understands how important these basic things are.
He does. He knows that you can't separate physical health from mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. And if you or your clients are constantly dehydrated or sleep deprived, you're not going to be functioning at your best.
Right. It's going to affect everything.
Your mental clarity, your emotional resilience, your physical performance, all of it suffers. And that creates roadblocks for everyone. For life coaching clients, it can hinder their progress. For trainers, it can drain their energy and make it harder to motivate others. For healers, it can deplete their own well-being. And for fitness enthusiasts, it can sabotage their workouts and recovery.
Wow, yeah, it really does have a ripple effect.
So for all of you listening, take a moment to reflect on your own habits. Are you really prioritizing your hydration? Are you getting enough sleep?
These aren't just little details, they're the foundation for everything else.
And that brings up an important question. What's one small step you can take today to improve your hydration or your sleep? Even a tiny change can make a big difference in the long run.
Absolutely. And if you're interested in learning more about this whole holistic approach, Coach Rahul Garg offers free coaching sessions. You can talk to him one-on-one about your specific needs and how to put these principles into practice.
That's a fantastic opportunity. And to connect with Rahul, just send him an email at insert placeholder email address or message him on WhatsApp at insert placeholder WhatsApp number.
Perfect. We'll include those in the show notes. And be sure to check out his daily reading group and subscribe to his YouTube channel at Insert Placeholder YouTube channel. Name for more great content on holistic health and well-being.
Awesome. So as we wrap up this deep dive into water and sleep, let's just recap what we've learned.
Yeah.
We talked about how crucial water is for every single function in our bodies and how dehydration can show up in all sorts of sneaky ways.
And we explored how important sleep is for restoring our energy, boosting our immunity, even influencing how we age. These two pillars really are interconnected with everything.
They are. And here's a final thought for you to ponder. Take a look at your current water and sleep routines and see if there's one small thing you can change starting today to improve them. It might seem like a tiny tweak, but it can have a huge impact on your overall health and vitality.
Absolutely. Well, thank you all for joining us on this deep dive into the fundamentals of health and well-being.
We'll see you next time.